Hey folks, in the previous session what we have done is we have plotted this log histogram of question appearance count. Along with that, we have fixed all the missing values if we have in our data. That's what we have done in the previous session. So in this session, our fun challenge is all about, let's try to go ahead and let's perform the text analysis on top of your data. Again, if I will say df.head of let's say 2, the moment I will execute. Now from this data, you can see you have two features which are of course my question 1 and question 2 that are text in nature. It means considering both features, I have to perform something known as text analysis. Let's try to perform the text analysis. Now one thing that you will notice is what type of analysis you can think of performing on top of this text. So some of the popular analysis that you can think of with respect to this text are, the very first one is exactly my word cloud analysis. This is extremely used in context of if we have some text data. Again, if you need more clarification, you can always think of using some charts and plot. You can always think of using some charts and plot. But in general, if you need a quick summary about your text feature, word cloud is a clear winner over here. So what this word cloud is all about, it says, hey, I have all the representation of data, let's say on top of this box. Imagine I have this box. Let's say I have some important keywords over here. Imagine some of the frequent used keywords are, let's say India, let's say USA. The third important is let's say football. The fourth important is let's say Donald Trump. And the fifth important one, let's say as machine learning, artificial intelligence. Now from this entire box, we can see that bigger the font of the keyword we have, higher the priority with respect to that keyword. It means machine learning, along with we have football, along with that we have something known as Donald Trump, then we have USA, then we have India. This is probably the hierarchy that you can think of. It means these are some of the most frequently used keywords with respect to the data that we have. This is in a nutshell what my word cloud analysis stands for. That's how actually it works. Again, just to perform this word cloud analysis, we have a handy module often known as word cloud. So what we need to do is, to this word cloud, we need to pass all the data in the form of string nature. But unfortunately, this question 1 and this question 2 basically belongs to my series data structure. So first and foremost, we need to convert this from series to my string. The moment I will do this, and I have all the data in my string, let's say q underscore all. I will just pass this q underscore all to my word cloud. And we will end up getting such an amazing word cloud. That's what I have to plot the entire word cloud of my data. So let's try to code up all the stuff, of course using Python. So very first, let's try to create a new series. Which hold all the question, of course, of question 1 and question 2. So I will say, let's create a list as let's say L1, let's create a list as L2. Let's concatenate L1 plus L2. Let's call a series on top of this. We will end up getting a series. So let's try to do this. So we will say df of question 1. We will say question 1. The moment I will execute, this is basically a series representation. I will say the moment I will call list on top of this, the moment I will do this. Again, you can also think of calling to list or you can think of calling a list on top of this. both are doing same task. I will say cool. I will say cool. Let's try to concatenate it. Let's try to concatenate it. I will say df of question 2. Let's concatenate all the stuff. Now on top of this, just call a series. Just call this series. Let me execute it. This is basically a series representation. Let me store, let's say in train underscore questions or QS. Let me execute. Let me say train underscore QS. Let me execute. So this is your entire data. Now this is the data in the form of series data structure. Now this is the entire data in the form of series. Now we need to convert this series to our string. So again, just to do this, we have a handy function. Again, there are typically two ways to do this. The one way is you can think of iterating on top of each and every row, and you can think of storing in some string. This is the one way. You can use some loops. You can use some loop. You can just iterate and you can store this in a string. But as we are using Python, we have a very handy inbuilt function, which is my join. We will say, hey, can you join this series? Can you join this series having some separator? I will say, let's say space the separator over here. It means each index gets joined having a space as a separator. By default, this join will convert this series into a string for us. That's the power of Python. So we will say, let's say join, let's say before calling join, let's say space is a separator. I will say cool, let's call join. Let's pass my train underscore QS. Let me store it is somewhere else. So I will say, let's say this is my train underscore data underscore QS, whatever naming convention you want to assign. Let me execute it. If I will say train underscore data underscore QS, let me execute. So this is the entire data that we have. Again, for those of you whose kernel got hanged, what you can do is you can just interrupt it. Now look at this, how huge this data is. Look at this. Look at this. The moment I call len on top of this, and if I will execute this line of code, the moment I will execute, you will end up getting the entire length of this string. Look at this. Look at the number that you have. Now, what I will do is, first and foremost, we have to import a class, or we have to import a module, which is all about our word cloud. I will say from this word cloud module, let me import a very handy stuff, which is all about word cloud. Again, for those of you who haven't installed this word cloud earlier, what you can do is you can install it using pip. I will say pip install word cloud. That's it. Let me just execute this line of code. I will say, hey, can you initialize this word cloud? Let me press shift plus tab over here. That is extremely straightforward. So what this does is it says we have lot of handy parameter that you can think of if you want to customize your existing word cloud, considering some fancy parameter. I will say, let's say I want to customize my width. I will say width is all about, let's say 1440. I want to customize my height. So I will say height is all about nothing but 1080. Cool. Now we have to generate our word cloud. I will say I have to call a generate function on top of this. I have to call this. And here we have to pass our train underscore data underscore QS, which is my entire data. Let's store this word cloud object. Let's in cloud. I will say it is all about cloud. Let me execute this line of code. Now let's try to showcase this. So I will say plt.imshow, and here we have to pass our cloud. If I will execute this line of code, you will end up getting such an amazing word cloud. Let's try to customize it. So what I will do is I will say cool. First and foremost, let's try to disable the access. So I will say plt.access. Let me pass off over there. Let me execute this line of code again. So this is basically my word cloud. Now from this word cloud, there are some of the keywords that get highlighted as best, difference, of course, India. It means we are receiving a lot of questions on the keyword, of course, India. So that's all about this session. In the upcoming session, what we will do is we will try to perform some basic analysis. Let's say, hey, can you perform the semantic analysis like things? So that's all about this session. If you guys have any issues regarding this session, feel free to ask with us via Q&A. That's all about it. Thank you. Have a nice day. Keep learning, keep growing, keep practicing.